somebody from my background, I mean, if you had told me years ago I'd be here now, I would not have believed you, but I'm a living example that you can do anything you put your mind to.
Welcome to the BLUF podcast, where you get the bottom line up front and we won't waste your time.
Welcome. Hello, everybody out there. I'd want to say thank you for tuning in to the BLUF line, better known as the bottom line up front. Again, I'm your host, Command Sergeant Major Jimenez, here on episode 9 to bring you some information, talk to you a little bit about what we got going on, and also introduce a special guest that we got on the show for you today. Again, it's been a pretty busy week it's been a pretty busy month in the month of February. We've done a lot of things in this month, from going through our Super Bowl weekend, which we were able to bring back from this country, of course, because of COVID-19. So many things have shaped out differently, but, it brought some normalcy to see a Super Bowl. And then also, as we leaned into President's Day weekend, we were able to take a little bit of a breather there. We're celebrating some observances there. Also, with Engineer Week on us, I wanted to take an opportunity to really talk and bring you one of our special guests to the show. It's one of our very own engineers here at Redstone Arsenal. His name is Jason Braxton. Before I bring him onto the show and let him unleash and go ahead and talk to you guys a little bit about what he does and where he's from and kind of his story of what it takes to be an engineer, I want to kind of go over what it is, an Engineer Week, and how it was established, where it was established. Of course, obviously, with this Engineer Week, it's a celebration of national engineers, which was started in 1951 by the National Society of Professional Engineers in conjunction with President George Washington's birthday. President Washington is considered as the nation's first engineer, notably by his survey work. So with that being said, I just want to say, it's a privilege and an honor to be able to introduce my guest, Mr. Jason Braxton, to the show to talk a little bit about him. And it's in tune with Engineers Week because he is an engineer. With that being said, Jason, I'll hand it over to you to kind of introduce yourself and maybe give us a little bit of a background about you.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm also very humble, and speaking of humble, I guess I'll start with my background. I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama, and it was a relatively low-income neighborhood. I grew up in a single-family home. I had 2 brothers and 1 sister. All 3 brothers joined the military. So I winded up joining the military in like the 11th grade of high school. And so I planned to join the Army Reserves, and went into chemical. I was a chemical operations specialist, and I joined the reserves, went to basic training in around 90, 91. Desert Storm kicked off, and lo and behold, as soon as I graduated AIT, I was shipped off to Desert Storm. So when I came home, decided I may as well go active duty. There was nothing but trouble at home, and by then, it's something about joining the military, especially basic training at AIT. You learn a lot of things. They teach you how to take care of yourself, how to be accountable, responsible. So that played a huge part of me growing up and letting go of some of the bad decisions and perspectives I had on life and things of that nature. Anyway, went active duty, and I just kind of grew from there. I eventually became an NCO. In the Army taught me a lot of things. I give a lot of credit to the military. They played a huge part in the person I am today. So I stayed in the military for like 6 years, and then I got out from Germany, came home. I had some family issues, so I thought it best to just get out at that time. But it wasn't well thought out because I got out without a college degree, right? And I had a family.
With saying that, and I just wanted to chime in because it's really familiar to the story that I kind of lived, and one, I want to say thank you for the service that you gave to our country and joining the United States Army, and to see you now, I mean, to me, it's, a soldier for life. Once you're a soldier, always a soldier. And I want to say thank you for your service. And it's really humbling to see all the civilian workforce here at Redstone Arsenal as a green suitor still, and see how hard they work and see the efforts that they put in to help the soldiers still accomplishing their mission. It was an eye-opener to see the other side of it, to see how hard you guys work. But really, when you became a soldier, I know you kind of talked a little bit about it. You said it was kind of like a family thing. Because I used to be a former recruiter, and I just want to make sure recruiters didn't lie to you or nothing like that. But it's really having an understanding. What made you make that transition to say, you know what, I want to join the Army, or I want to be part of that team?
Well, I mean, I can tell you it wasn't well, I didn't put a lot of effort and thought into it as I would think one would take. Part of it was by circumstance, meaning my best friend, we were in high school and we didn't want to go to class that day. And behold, they were giving the ASVAB in the lunchroom. So if you want to go, you want to skip this class, go take the ASVAB. That's what we did. So I didn't put a lot of thought into the ASVAB. I took the test and just, went through it. And they told us about the buddy system. So you can join on the buddy. He said, man, let's join on the buddy system. We'll be together. I said, okay, let's do it. And that's what happened. And I wound up joining, but found out he wasn't old enough at the time. And, I was, had a date to go to basic training. And he said, well, you going to get out? And I said, no, I'm already committed now. I'm going to stay with it. So that's what I did.
No, I hear you. And I think it's a great story because, when I think back of me as well, when I joined in 93, I was thinking along the same lines. To me, I don't think I was ready for college. I needed to get out of that neighborhood I was in, just the kind of lifestyle that was going on. And I wanted a change, and I knew I wanted more for myself, even though maybe back then, like you said, I didn't know, but in the back of my mind, I knew there was a little bit more out there for me besides what was going on. And I knew there was kind of a dead end to what was going on if I stayed there.
Right. Yeah, one great thing about the military, too, was, I always had a sense of knowing, the military gave you everything. You can go in there pretty much naked. They can give you clothes, somewhere to stay, feed you. You had NCOs mainly. You had officers, but NCOs were like your mother and father away from home. They took care of you, and in the back of my mind, I always knew I had that. So when I hit that dead space, when I came back from Desert Storm and trying to decide where do I want to go, what do I want to do, that's why I decided I knew I could turn back to the military and be okay. And like you said, Sergeant Major, to get me out of the environment I was in. I'd be in a safer place and I can better myself. So, yeah.
Now, I mean, in saying that, you had your journey in the Army. At what point do you think you were like, okay, well, the Army, I've gotten, where I'm good with the Army, and I maybe want to transition into something different?
At the time, circumstances in my life kind of put me in a situation where I really didn't have a choice but to get out, But up until that instance, I was destined to be a soldier for life. I
Right.
wanted to be the best I could be. Back then you had the spit shine boots
Yep.
and the box hat and press, and I was all of that.
Right.
I was like,
Most definitely. I think we all live that.
yeah.
Kind of miss it a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, and then the camaraderie and the accountability, especially the folks who are in leadership, you'll see when you get out, there's sort of you still look for that, and sometimes that's not easy to find on the civilian side as it is on the military side. So,
No, I think that's good. That's great to hear that story of, there's camaraderie there, and then when you leave it thinking you're gonna go out you still miss it a little bit, and then you get to the point where, look, I'm out of the service. What do I do? What's next? Can you tell us a little bit about, once you were done on that last day of wearing the green suit, when you can start to grow your beard out like you got, and that's what I look forward to one of these days, to grow my beard out when I transition out. What made you start thinking, okay, now I gotta plan to school? What was that next thought?
well, I was kind of the instance that happened, I got out on a hardship discharge. It was an honorable discharge, and at the time I was in Germany. You know, I even put in a request to be compassionately reassigned closer to home. At that time, Anniston, was open, and that was a chemical post. That's what I did. So I wanted to go there to get everything under control, and then I would have went anywhere the military would have sent me, But unfortunately, it didn't work that way. So I had a choice to make. Are you gonna forget about what you got going on at home, or vice versa? So I chose. I chose family.
I hear you. Life happens, right? Sometimes life has a vote, and we adjust fire, and I guess that's a good trait to have, especially being a soldier. We're able to adapt and overcome situations sometimes that we're faced with, and I'm sure you, Jason, as well as a lot of us have out there that have met, circumstances that we've had to adjust fire, and we overcome those things. One of the things that I want to kind of pick your brain on was, the college selection. You picked the college, and I'm sure you'll tell us a little bit about what college you went to, and just how was college how was adjustment into college life? How was, what college you go to, that type of stuff?
That's a big question. First of all, the circumstance I was under caused me to aim higher, reach for more challenging goals. I tried my hand at a lot of different things when I got out, but again, I had a wife and 3 kids at that time, because when I got out, my wife was pregnant. I didn't have an education, and I'm coming home from Germany. We all had to move in with my mother-in-law. So every time you hear one of those kids cry, it's like, what are you gonna do? You make $8 an hour. That ain't enough. You're gonna be staying here. You don't want. You got. So anyway, I worked all kinds of jobs, from digging ditches to washing dishes to you name it. I probably did it. Till eventually. And a lot of it goes back to the military, right? You know yourself. You seek self-improvement. That's one of the things that sort of drove me, right? So I'm working these places, and you surrounded sometimes, not speaking bad about anybody, but sometimes you're in an environment where people are just not looking to better themselves, right? That they're comfortable where they are, and that always bothered me, so you okay, just doing this for 30 years. I'm not. This is not. So I could do better. So I went back to junior college first, and I wanted to go into electronics engineering technology. I got an associate's degree in that, but that wasn't enough. I graduated. I didn't have any experience, so nobody would give me a job. So I'm going to interviews, and I'm like, just give me a chance. I could do anything, right? I would study that. Just give me a chance. Nobody would do it. So that's sort of why I decided to go back to school. But thank God I had the GI Bill, right? And that helped me out, because I was able to provide for my family and also afford my college tuition, which was awesome, So I went to UAB, and one day I was driving down the street, University Boulevard in Birmingham, in front of the Business Engineering Complex, right? They had just built it, and it looked so fancy. And I'm passing by, I'm thinking to myself, I bet you they do some tough stuff in there. I could never see myself there doing that. And God laughed, because it wasn't long till I don't know how I wanted to, since I was chemical in the military, I wanted to go into something similar, and I knew I wanted to challenge myself, so I aimed as high as I can aim, and I wasn't sure whether I was going to hit that target or not, but, thank God I did, right? I hit that target. I ain't saying it was easy, but, I hit it, so.
No, that's pretty neat, and, I want to thank you for telling us a little bit about your story and how we got to where we're at, and that's seeing that complex in the engineer building out there, and saying, hey, look, I'm going to dive into something, you set goals and you keep on going till you get to where you need to get to, and that is a testament to where you stand now, and some of the environment you've been exposed to, be it the military, be it some of the challenges you might have faced. I think that's good, and as we lean into, talking a little bit about Engineer Week and your accomplishments here, I just want you the listeners to know and understand, when you went into environmental, what made you kind of look at, because there's so many engineering jobs out there, what made you want to look at and kind of dive into environmental engineering?
Well, it was a transition. Since I was chemical in the military, and I thought I was the best chemical NCO that ever, and I prided myself on that. So when I got out and I did these odd jobs, I did a lot of like environmental cleanup jobs for staffing companies, and an engineer, in Anniston had his own company. He needed some work, somebody to come and do even labor. I do that, So I kind of developed an interest in environmental from doing that kind of work, and it was sort of a bridge between my military career and what was coming on the civilian side.
Talking about Engineer Week, again, you as an environmental engineer, I kind of looked up what it meant, but I'll let you talk to us a little bit about, what an environmental engineer actually does. I kind of looked up a definition of an engineer, and it shot out at me, and it says someone who solves a problem you didn't know you had in a way you don't understand. So that's the engineers, out there just making it happen, right? So, can you tell the audience a little bit about an environmental engineer and maybe what your role is here at Redstone Arsenal?
Absolutely. Environmental engineering is it's a very broad topic or discipline, and it is a sub-discipline of civil engineering. And so you can choose to specialize in a particular area of environmental engineering, like energy or hazardous waste or what have you. There's different areas in that, but all engineers are problem solvers, right? We're just sort of wired that way. And my wife tell me that all the time. She just want me to listen, and I'm figuring out how to how we're gonna fix this. Right? So with that being said, in environmental engineers, at least what I do on the environmental side is I make sure that we're in compliance with all the state and federal environmental regulations, whether it's greenhouse gas releases or air pollution or water pollution, or solid and hazardous waste disposal, things of that nature. We just make sure that we're able to operate as a facility, or wherever you may work as an environmental engineer, you make sure that facility is able to operate and still make a profit while still in compliance with environmental regulations, and nobody goes to jail, which is a big part of your job.
No, that's great, man. And before I let you go, I just want to I want to thank all our engineers out there, as we're in Engineer Week. It's good to have and talk to one of our own. He is human. Mm-hmm. He is an engineer, and he's one of our own Garrison employees and team members. So, it was great to have you on board to tell our listeners a little bit about what you do, a little bit about, where you came from. Sometimes, we just think, hey, engineers, poof, it happens. But sometimes there's a struggle, and there's a story to be told, to say, here's where I got. But there's always a start point in the middle, and a lot of times people don't understand that. Go ahead.
And I'll add to that too, to encourage anybody out there. You can do anything you put your mind to. If you work hard. Look at me, right? It didn't come easy, but I did it, and even being a licensed professional engineer was the furthest thing from my mind, but that's the highest you can go in this discipline, So somebody from my background, if you had told me years ago I'd be here now, I would not have believed you, but I'm a living example that you can do anything you put your mind to.
Most definite, man. And I would tell you that, a lot of us share that same story. If I told you that I might be a Garrison Command Sergeant Major for Redstone Arsenal, coming from El Paso, when I was 19, I'd be like, man, there's no way I can fathom that, But there is stories to be told out there, and by all means, if you're out there listening and want me to talk to other people or interview other people and bring them onto the show or or answer any questions that you may have out there, by all means, shoot me an email or reach out to me, and we'll reach out to see if we can get those people on. Before I let you go, Jason, I mean, if you can tell listeners maybe a story or something that you've experienced being an environmental engineer that you've experienced.
Well, I tell you, one of the best things I think ever happened to me, and I get questions like this a lot, like how do you avoid getting pigeonholed, but I had a good boss who gave me my first job as an engineer, right? And I worked for that guy for 8 years, and we're still good friends to this day. But he told me when he hired me, first of all, he interviewed a few folks, but I followed up from the email, through an email, and I told him, I appreciate the opportunity, things like that. And he said that was his decision maker. That's why he chose me, right? But the second thing he did was when he brought me on, he said, I'm not gonna just give you one thing to do. I'm gonna give you multiple things to do. And so this guy, he just let me just run free throughout the facility. Now the facility was like a little city, And so he used, I like to solve problems, I like challenges, so he just let me just run out and just, so I'm out there in ditches with pH meters, and I'm doing, and I'm asking him for money, to do things, and he let me have fun with that, and that piqued my interest and kept me going, and I think I grew a lot through that process. So that's one of the greatest things I think.
Hey, solving problems people didn't know they had. That's you out there making it happen.
Yeah.
Hey, again, Mr. Jason Braxton, thank you for coming on to the podcast and just giving us a little insight on engineers and yourself, a little background. As I Googled again, I go to Google so they can answer me some questions. Some of the top engineering jobs out there. I mean, you talk about electrical engineering, chemical engineering, computer, aerospace engineering, health and safety engineering, and you know what? Environmental and agriculture engineering was there too as well. And I'm glad I got this opportunity to talk to you a little bit and let our listeners get to know a little bit of insight of what it takes to be an environmental engineer. So by all means, if you're out there, sky's the limit. Don't put any blockage on what you're dreaming on, and continue to push forward. And thank you for coming on to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome everybody to our mailbag segment here to bring you some of our latest call-ins and mail-in issues on what we can answer. I know we've got a couple of things that we got going on. Jonathan, I'll pass it over to you on some of those mailbags that we got going.
Thank you, Sergeant Major. Well, we got one mailbag question in, but before we get to that, I heard you had a little experience the other day at the commissary when you were trying to go in and think you were getting some syrup for some pancakes. But why don't you tell people about that real quick?
Sure, yeah, I'll talk a little bit about that. It was quite a unique experience that I had. It was on a Sunday morning. I woke up kind of early. It was we were making some breakfast and kind of discovered that I needed some syrup. So you can't have pancakes without syrup. So I decided to run to our local commissary here, and jumped in the car, and I worked my way over to the commissary. And as you look at different parking spots that are set all around the installation, you kind of look at the handicap areas. You kind of you just kind of ensure you kind of follow those rules. It's just one of those given things that we do, right? So of course there's a spot for a CSM. And I pulled into that spot, walked into the commissary. It just opened up to get me some syrup and walk out and go enjoy my breakfast, right? And then I, made my payment, came back out, and lo and behold, to find a little card on my windshield of my car. And I thought for a second, well, maybe it's someone advertising something and trying to get a coupon or a discount or something. But I pulled the card, I jumped in my car, and I started to drive off. I pulled into my house and decided to look at it. I threw it on the other passenger seat, and then finally when I got home, I looked at it, right? And it was a pretty interesting little card that said, hey, if you are not a command sergeant major or sergeant major, you know, for Air Force, Marines, Navy, I mean, you name it, don't park here, right? You need to be a sergeant major to park in this parking spot. So, I mean, I don't know if I didn't have the car that fit what a command sergeant major should be driving, or I, you know, I don't have stickers on my car that say I'm a sergeant major. But, you know, I was a little taken back.
Right. So let's unpack that a little bit, because there's a couple things there. Because after you told me the story, I went and I talked to a few other people, and apparently whoever does these cards,
Right.
they've been doing it for a while.
Really? Okay.
And, you know, it's someone out there who just kind of polices those spots.
So you're saying we got some parking police?
I guess so. But, you know, I mean, I wondered, like, is the guy just sitting in the parking lot and, like, did he see you get out of your truck and walk in and just say to himself, oh, that's not a sergeant major?
Right.
Or is he just driving by and he sees your car and he's like, sergeant major wouldn't drive that car? I mean, what exactly does a sergeant major look like, and what do they drive? That's what I want to know.
Well, I mean, you know, does a sergeant major drive a truck? Does he drive an SUV? Does he drive a car? Does he drive a motorcycle? Well, I mean, I've driven a little bit of all, right? So I got a variety of vehicles. You know, obviously a sergeant major, command sergeant major might not be in uniform 24/7, even though we're a soldier 24/7. So yeah, I was not in my uniform, but it still doesn't negate the fact that I'm, you know, a soldier and a command sergeant major in the United States Army.
Well, now, those parking spots, aren't those parking spots for active and retired?
They are. So
yeah, you can't tell by uniform.
no.
And now, look, I've seen a number of sergeant majors that are retired, and, you know, they'll have, you just kind of know, because they're either wearing a hat that says command sergeant major, or they've got a sticker somewhere, you know, and look, that's something to be proud of. That's an accomplishment. Right. I don't know how prevalent that is among people, and, you know, it may be like a generational thing. Like, you know, maybe that an older generation or the previous sergeant majors after they retire, you know, they want to put that out there, and they want to advertise that, hey, I did this. Mm-hmm. And I think, you know, like people my age, people your age, we don't advertise as much, like, oh, we did this, or oh, we, you know. Right.
Now, you know, one, I'm a humble guy, and I can tell you there's so many leaders, previous and past, that are humble as well. We're prideful individuals as well. So yes, by all means, I will probably have one of those retired hats when I retire that says retired sergeant major, command sergeant major, or, you know, or proud of your branch that you served in. I just don't like to put stickers on my car. It's just, you know, one of those things that I don't like to do. Of course, others do, and you know, obviously, to me, I don't think I'd park in a GO's parking, because I'm not a GO, and you know, I always kind of usually see those parkings too, and I kind of let it be for somebody else. Mm-hmm. I don't generally park there all the time, because, you know, I know there's retired command sergeant majors that could probably use that parking, or there's other command sergeant majors on the installation too, or sergeant majors that can use that parking. But that morning I was in and out, you know, so I figured, well, you know, why not? So I parked in the spot that I'm, you know, set up for, I guess, if you want to say it. And it was just kind of interesting to see that police or parking lot police appointee putting a sticker, a little sticker on my car. And I kind of, you know, I'd definitely be interested in going back and seeing who that was. So
yeah, I'd
to
like
see his or her side of what they view as a command sergeant major or sergeant majors.
Right, yeah, I think it'd be fun to talk to him.
Yeah.
Also, I kind of think that's kind of the most command sergeant major thing to do.
Right.
You know? I mean,
right.
It's also funny that you hardly ever use those spots, and the one time you do,
yeah,
you know,
I get policed up.
Yeah.
And it's a parking spot for a sergeant major or command sergeant major, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, and that's it. That's why you kind of look at him like, man, you know, really? Come on. You know, what makes you the identifier of a sergeant major or a command sergeant major? You know, I'd like to talk to you and let you know that, we all got a different look. We don't all look the same, and we're not in uniform, or I mean, you might even have someone that's got a full beard, retired sergeant major.
Right, and I'm pretty sure your picture's on the wall in the commissary.
Yeah, my picture's up there at the commissary and at the exchange and other various locations.
Yeah.
Which makes it even more interesting to get that sticker if they saw me get out of the vehicle.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's move on. We've got one mailbag question in this week. Well, before we get to that, why don't you tell people, if they want to send in a question for you to answer, where to send it to?
Okay. No, but thank you for letting me express that one. I just had to get it out. But by all means, if you have something that you want to talk about in our mailbag segment, please send me an email at juan.p.jimenez.mil@mail.mil and give us something to talk about. I think it's interesting the fact that we're able to push this out and reach out to people and really talk about things that might be on their mind, especially in this mailbag section. That's how you can reach me. Reach out.
Good deal. So today's question is, it came in, and it was someone asking, they go, why don't people have to wear a mask in their car? Especially when they're like approaching the gate or something like that, because you're going to roll the window down, and, I don't think you're 6 feet away from that guard whenever you're going through and they're scanning your card and all of that. But they were just curious about that.
Now, that is a good question. Why don't people wear it? And I like to put it like this: we have continued to build this plane in flight, and what I say and what I mean is, we have adjusted and adapted to so many ways now that we've been dealing with this coming up on a year almost, this COVID-19 pandemic. And initially it was stay away, and then it was put a face cover or put a certain type of mask on, and it was just so many versions of how we were conducting business that we adapted to every change. And if you're in the vehicle with someone other than the people that your close family members, you'd probably be good to wear a mask. You're within that 6 feet of distancing. But if you're in the car by yourself, and I've seen it so many times, people wearing their masks, I got you. But at the same token, as you're approaching the installation, it's still important for our guards to be able to identify you. So, we might ask you to, or our guards might ask you to drop your mask so we can see who you are coming into the installation. Or, with our new systems that we got out there, we got to be able to identify the picture that comes up to the person driving the vehicle. And it sometimes makes it hard if the only thing we can see is your eyeballs. So, that's one reason that, we ask you to bring down your mask. And, I don't see really a point if you're in the vehicle by yourself wearing your mask, but, it is it's really up to that person in there. But if it's just you by yourself in the vehicle and it's your personal vehicle, I don't wear a mask, but, everybody has a little bit of their own preference of what they want to do while they're in their vehicle, right?
Sure. I mean, you do you. If that's what makes you feel comfortable, then do it, as long as you can breathe.
Right.
And you don't, you don't pass out behind the wheel or anything.
No, I got you. And, I think as we got new guidance and we continue to refine things, it kind of talks about it here. It talks about all individuals on military installations and all individuals performing official duties on behalf of the department from any location other than individual's home will follow CDC guidelines and practice physical distancing, specifically by staying at least 6 feet, right? So, obviously, if you can't stay 6 feet, we want you to be protected. Our guards are wearing a face covering, so if you have to drop down your face covering momentarily to get a visual inspection, our guards have their mask on, so we're being safe.
Right, and that's the thing. First of all, the mask it doesn't protect you; it protects the other person. And with what just came out from the DoD, it takes the application of a little bit of common sense.
Right.
And you can go by the letter of the law, and that's great if that's what you want to do.
Right.
But, I think we all, everyone needs to be a little patient with each other. I was talking to a lady the other day, and she hates the mask. She can't stand it, but she still wears it.
Right.
And that's kind of, that's what we need. That we need people to just kind of do their part and do their thing, and we'll get through this.
No, you're absolutely right. I think, we've been dealing with this for a year, like I said earlier, and to me, it's this cloud of anxiety, cloud of, frustration, and we are going through so many emotions, mentally, physically, spiritually. I mean, you name it. We're in this cloud, right? And I visualize an aircraft as it's taking off and going through some turbulence as it's climbing. You're shaking around a little bit. You're the plane's a little frustrated, but I encourage everybody to continue to climb. Continue to look for the good stuff. Continue to see what's out there. And to me, that's I visually see us continuing to climb and get better till we pass all that turbulence and we find that smooth air. And that's really a testament to what everybody on Redstone and in our community has done. And that's, and sometimes it's hard to follow some rules, right? But you guys have done it, and my hat's off to you guys for wearing your mask when needed to be, being courteous out there, and some might not really want to put it on, but you still do, and we thank you for that. And now with the vaccine coming around, it's helping us out, but we're still not out of the water. There's a little bit of turbulence there still, so continue to climb and be positive. Continue to be patient. That golden rule. Let's just do our part to get through this. And I know there's a lot of frustrated people out there. There's different emotions out there. But be strong with it so we can get through it. And I want to say thank you, everybody, to tuning in to the mailbag. And again, send in what you want to talk about. Bye-bye now.